started here. So let's start with treating our minds.
Yes.
Opening up our minds to a new thought. And so as we come together, let's take a breath in, bring ourselves to this moment. We can let go of the day, allow ourselves to be fully present in the here and now, knowing that we are opening up our minds to receive all the possibilities, the potentiality of this infinite creative power in the universe that is omniscient, that is omnipresent, omnipotent, omniactive, through us and as us. For we are this infinite, creative, intelligent mind. And so in this class, let's open our minds, and I declare that we have this potential to come to a new understanding, a deeper, more compassionate, more anchored understanding in our relationship with money. And that we can go into service to ourselves, service to those we love, and service to the world. And be in complete alignment and synchronicity with all the energy, all the currency in the universe that is directed at creating a world that works for everyone, that is directed at awakening us to our spiritual magnificence, to the truth of who we are, that is directed in the most loving, compassionate way to raise the vibration on this planet. So for this class, I am eternally grateful. I am so grateful to Lynn Twist, her words, her experiences, her sharing, her soul, and grateful to what is about to be explored tonight. So with that, I release my word to the Eternal One, knowing all is well, all is in divine order, and together we say, and so it is. Okay, so, wow, it's been 2 weeks. Does it feel longer? Feels longer to me. Yeah. I feel like, a whole lifetime has happened between the last time we met. Curious to any insights, awarenesses that you've had, any ahas, anything you want to share? We'll just go around and whoever wants to start can start.
Okay, I'll start.
Thanks, Annette.
All right, so I talked to Lori for a very long time on Thursday. We had a great little session. And because of that session, I recognized two things. One, about my time, oh my God, and how much time I spend working. And two, about documenting a budget. And that's something that being in business and being with businesses for 45 years, I have to do for work. But I really am having a difficult time wrapping my head around doing that for myself, because it's evoked feelings of dislike, distrust with authority, banks, principal people for finance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm trying to work that out right now. So those are the two things that came out of our little chat on Thursday.
Wow, good awarenesses there, Annette.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And if I can offer something up, if you don't mind.
Please do.
Ultimately, when we are distrustful of something else, whether it's an institution or a person. And yes, we may have evidence in the world of form, like, this person hasn't followed through in their word, or this person hasn't been in integrity, or this, corporation maybe isn't in integrity. What can be really helpful to reflect is, what is it that I'm not trusting in myself?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, someone else.
I'll go.
Okay.
Time, I noticed when you start writing it down, it's interesting to see where it goes, but also because for me, it was like, what am I doing all day? I'm only getting 3 or 4 things done, but I didn't acknowledge all the little things that add up during the day. That's more than the things that I see that are complete. Like, there's always things in motion that take up time, and things that I anticipated that were shorter actually took a longer amount of time. So that was one thing about time. And then the interesting thing I found out about, there's a question about leaking or hoarding money.
Mm-hmm.
I hoard money in the sense of I buy things when they're on sale, and more so, it's like the kitchen, my cupboards are full of stuff and I forget it's in there, and then I keep buying, and it's like I'm preparing for a day when I don't, that way I always have something there. And yet it's interesting to me because it's like I realized that it came from a time when I was really young where we never knew where our next meal would come from.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was a friend of mine, she goes, what are you preparing for? Like to be, for a famine or something, like that you're not going to have enough money to go out and buy food because you're like, literally they're full, but it's like a protective measure, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really interesting. I thought, well, I don't need to do that, but it's a conditioned habit from way back. So now I made the decision to actually go through and eat my way through what I have in the house and let go of the hoarding aspect in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm. And that imprinting may also be not just what you experience, but it could be generational.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So now, if you can, instead of dragging that history into the present day and operating from that, take the history of the last 5 years. Have you had enough to eat?
Yeah.
Okay, use that history.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
There's always enough.
Yeah. Did you have enough to eat yesterday?
More than enough.
Yeah, there you go. So you start recognizing about, you have enough.
Yeah.
Enough. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
So I'll go next. Segueing what Lena was saying, I've just spent a week up in Orangeville with my kids, and I see a reflection of their spending habits currently of what mine used to be. Like, for example, the kids used to always laugh, and they used to say to me, you've got salad dressing in the fridge that's expired. And, do you ever throw it out? And of course, oh no, I never did that. And now I see them doing the same thing that I used to do, because I'm now in a place of where we were asked, where does money leak? And I realized in the past what it was like I always felt as if I didn't have enough, and so I'd buy more, whereas now I have put a complete halt to that. In fact, I I look where I leak money. And right now, except for an odd coffee or whatnot, I'm so astringent with my spending now. I've done the complete opposite of what I had done for the past 20 years. So I can relate to what Lena was saying, but I've gone right the opposite now. Like my fridge is practically bare. That never used to be the way. Now, my life was different, but just the same, my consciousness of spending is very different.
Mm-hmm.
Very.
Okay.
When I look what's leaking, I would have to say the odd coffee is a want, not a need. But mostly, I'm really, really conscious and careful. I don't hoard, but I'm right in the middle there now. So I've come a long way. I look at my kids and I see me as I was for a long time, but I'm not there anymore. So it was a good reflection.
Okay, great. Thanks, Linda.
Yeah, I'll jump in too.
Okay.
Hi. Yeah, I tend to be a habitual hoarder as well. It's just a sort of an unconscious habit, and it's actually served well as long as things don't go to waste. Like the fridge and the freezer and the pantry cupboards are all packed. There's no room for anything more, but I like to, stock up when the price is good or get something in bulk at Costco, and that does tend to save money, but the odd time things spoil after, 2 months of not being used in the fridge. So it can be overdone for sure. And I was becoming more aware of leaking money. Like I tend to have various online subscriptions and things that are periodically just charged to me on PayPal, and I haven't really paid attention to it. I just looked at my bank statement yesterday and at the PayPal charges and thought, I'm not using these things. When's the last time I used SugarSync or whatever, and I've been paying like $10 a month for like 4 years on that. And so there's ways I could tighten up my spending and put it to good use elsewhere, including charity. And I do enjoy tithing, not entirely to CSL, because there's so many other good causes. I want to give all the places that spiritually inspire me and where I can do good, and maybe it's sort of less recognized by other people what a worthy cause something is. So, but on the whole, it's not impoverishing me to tithe, and I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, and I love what you said about those subscriptions, because that's the newest way for businesses to make money, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Everything's a subscription. If you want Word, it's a subscription. If you want this, you want that. And it's so good to look at that.
Like if you have an iPhone, you used to be able to put all your music on it, just the music you already had. And now they make you pay money every month just to, like they store it in the cloud and you can't get access to it without paying every month.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Clever. Cool.
And I had a really enjoyable call with the practitioner. We talked about a lot of things, and it was very rewarding for me.
Aw, that's good. Yeah. Thank you.
That's it for me for now. Oh, and I spent a lot of time past 2 weeks watching the Olympics. With something that was just this past 2 weeks, like it might be 3 hours a day, which sort of took a lot of my time, but I thought it was time well spent. It was a special occasion.
Well, and I think anything that brings us pleasure, we don't have to.
Yeah.
It's not about the whole idea is to live in joy.
Yeah.
So it's not about living in sufficiency. Is not about depriving yourself
That's
of
right.
pleasure.
Good point. Sure.
Yeah. Thanks, Tom.
I'll go ahead. I've had a lot of stuff happening in my mind the last little while. It just hit me today. I don't care for myself. I don't dedicate time just to nurturing myself. And I really took a good look at that. Why am I so averse to do that? I've got really a lot happening in my life. I'm performing in a concert this Saturday for the Storytelling Festival, and a lot of other things as well. Including my commitments to the center. I was the community practitioner 2 weeks in a row. All of this stuff's going on, and it's really exciting. Occasionally I'm overwhelmed and I'm thinking, when can I do all this? But now I'm thinking, when can I dedicate time to myself? And it's I'll see where this goes. It's gonna shake things up for me.
Oh, well, put that into your time, right? Schedule that in. And just as we had an amazing woman give a talk on self-care for ministers. And she said, she was at a conference and she said, someone had said, love the teachings, but y'all don't look very good. You don't look very healthy. And, it was stressed about self-care. And I now have, with another minister, we are accountability partners for self-care. And maybe, you want an accountability partner. How are you taking care of yourself? Because really, you can't be there for anybody else full on and give unless you are truly taking care of yourself on all levels. That's emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, and physically. It has to be a priority. So you brought that up at the wrong day, Nick, if you wanted to skip by that one, because I'll hold you to it, taking care of yourself.
And another thought came to me, and it's just, I really can't get it out of my head. I think it's time for me to make a big change in my principal activity, like my income generating activity, what I'm dedicating my life to, not 37 and a half hours a week plus all the travel time and everything else that's part of my work week. And instead of making that my main activity, find a new main activity. And the thing that scares me the most about that is telling all my friends and watching the look of horror on their face. And I've actually tried it out with a few of my friends, but not the ones who I expect to react the worst.
Okay. Well, I trust and know that whatever you choose to do will be absolutely perfect and in alignment for you. All right. Hi, Lucy. We're just checking in. Okay, who wants to go next?
I can. So the question about leaking or hoarding money, I don't believe I've ever qualified for the concept of hoarding money. But one of the things that I was paying attention to over the course of the last few weeks is unconscious spending. So going, having a purpose when there's a choice to make a purchase, whether it's in, something that I want or something that I feel that I need. If you bite me, I'm going to hurt you. Sorry, she reached out to bite me. It's that unconsciousness of just blindly going into a store and picking something up and saying, but one of the things I noted when I was having a chat with Annette was I go into the I don't go to the grocery store that often, but I go into the grocery store, and because I go to the market and I'm dealing with different vendors, I really don't know how much money I'm spending when I buy food supplies for us here. And so when I went this past Saturday, there was more of a conscious effort of being aware of what I was purchasing and that. So for me, it's not necessarily about the groceries, but it's about the consciousn's of my person when I make a decision to buy something. So it's that's been my exercise, and I'm finding that I'm spending less money because and it's not that I'm not depriving myself of things I want, but I'm finding that I'm realizing I don't want as much as I thought I did.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really neat awareness, is I don't want as much as I think I do. Another practice that I'm stepping back into with joy and love is a daily meditation and journaling, and that's been very cathartic as well. So I'm grateful for that experience.
Good. Thanks. You want to add anything, Brian? Well,
No, I'm okay.
you're okay? Okay.
I'll go next
Okay.
with along with Lori's line of recently I've watched my spending, and I find now that when I go to buy something spontaneous, I sort of question, will I remember the joy of having this, 2 or 3 weeks from now? Is it really what I want? And so I really enjoy more now my splurges. So it becomes a real choice. And also with Lena's point about cupboards, I have stuff in my cupboards since I moved in this place. But it's a lot of it is stuff that I think I would like, but I don't eat it because it's special. So I save it. So I have to stop that somehow.
Great.
Yeah. Because it expires, and then eventually when I move next, I'll throw it away, right?
And I didn't know you were planning on moving soon, so it might
I'm
be
not.
this
is the last time I moved, I threw away a lot of stuff, and each time I move, I clear my cupboards. But it's food in there that I like to see that's there. It's kind of strange, but it's I guess it's a kind of hoarding. But the cupboards growing up were always full of food for whenever. We had a cellar with a cupboard full of food every winter. So it's like food must be in the cupboard. And I really noticed that, and I'm slowly chipping away at getting rid of that. Anyways, so it's been a very calm week of my time. Is I realize what I do is I enjoy my time for TV. That feels like a pleasure that I really, really enjoy, and that's what I want to do. So evenings are that, unless I'm doing something particular. So there's, just watching my time and enjoying what I do. Basically. Yeah.
Good, thanks.
I'll go. It's Lynette.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Lynette.
Hi. So I had a great talk with Linda, and what I found for myself was I have an idea of how much I spend, but I actually haven't. It's not written down. It's not documented. It's just in my head. And also, just like her, I couldn't find anything where I'm leaking money. But now, after people have been talking, I do realize sometimes I buy groceries, and it can be 1 week's gone. I'm throwing the vegetables or whatever out. So that's really, well, it's waste, right? So that's, and I don't see, other than maybe clothes, it's my hoarding. But I've moved so many times, so I've purged a lot. So I haven't really, I could pack myself up in a couple of hours and be gone somewhere else. So I haven't tended to hold on to things. but just like what Nick said, I'm really good at taking care that others look after themselves.
Yes, you are.
But where sometimes for myself, my self-care, like, going to bed on time, or just even just taking time, making sure, having boundaries around when people can call me, just things like that. I've noticed that I'm kind of a loosey-goosey around that. And so it's a great awareness to just be be more aware for my self-care. Yeah.
Oh, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Does anybody else want to check in before we move on? Yep, Sonia.
So I had the good fortune to be at the conference with Reverend Helen, and so it was fascinating to see all the different ways that people view money and prosperity, and they're all involved with CSL in one way or another. So there were ministers, there were practitioners, there were lay people who are involved in member groups and such, and there was the budget was presented with just a summary of things and the numbers from last year. So we're actually above budget, which is great, because since the amalgamation of 2012, it's been a bit of a struggle to get everything lined up. And so now there's a sense of kind of we've landed here and it's up from here. And I kind of watched the energy and took in the energy of that and listened to the conversations and eavesdropped on the conversations too around this for like the following couple of days while I was there. And it was interesting to hear the different camps just by people's word choice. Helen, maybe you understand what I'm speaking about. And so it was not about at all what was going on with CSL. It was about where people see themselves. So there was like mistrust of where things were. There was like excitement. There was like, let's go spend. And then there was like, finally, and like pride. And then there was a bit of, oh my gosh, we're actually there. We're actually there. And there was certainly a sense of something that I don't understand, which is people maybe being so strapped into the struggle of the getting somewhere that the getting somewhere is like the thing. And when you arrive at a balanced budget, it's like, now what do we do? Because we're so used to being in the have not, we're so used to being in the striving, and there's such martyrdom and striving, and now that isn't there. So I was just really sort of a fly on the wall, and I just was taking that in.
Well, and I think that's a really good analogy for a lot of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh my God, I'm going to get there and work so hard and struggle. And then it's like, oh, now what? What do I do with it all?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you. Great. Anybody else before we move on?
Do I raise my hand? I missed the first part, but I just wanted to say how amazing it was to do the schedule with your time. To actually clock out your time, because I realized I was sleeping a lot and couldn't say I'm tired anymore. Like, it was like there's no reason for you not to be. So that was really, really neat. And I just jumped in, but what someone was saying about their groceries and the food waste, that was what I loved. Was after that Monday class, our last class, I just sat down and was like, I'm not going to grocery shop this week, and just see how much, if I need to, I will, but just see how much food I have. And I haven't needed to go grocery shopping yet. Like, I have so much food in my house just sitting, waiting to be eaten. So it was so empowering to experience that.
Oh, fantastic. Good for you. Thanks, Diana. All right, shall I move on? I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, so we covered the check-in. What I would like to do is to invite you to have a look at life from a different perspective. And so I'm going to actually, if you have paper, that's great. You might just want to make some notes. I'm going to read something to you 4 times through. The first time I read it to you, I want you to listen to the words that are being spoken and see what theme emerges for you. The second time, and then I'll give you a few minutes to write it down, and I'll remind you of this. The second time is to listen to what words or line really shimmers at you or glitters at you or sparkles at you. And write that line down and what you feel when you look at this line, when it pops out at you. The third time I read it is to listen to the words as if they are a prayer, just like when we're doing spiritual mind treatment. And then the second or the fourth time that I read it through, be open to hearing what action you are being called to take. Okay, and I will repeat this throughout the at each time. I'll read it through once, and I'll tell you to listen to the words. I'll read it through again, tell you what to look for. Okay, so you can either close your eyes as you listen to it. You can be writing things down as you listen to it, or you can just look at me reading it, if that entices you. But here's what I'm going to read to you. Come on, you. Sorry, I got to move you guys around on the screen here. Okay. I learned my lessons about money from people I used to call poor. And I actually did call them poor. I did call most people poor. But when you actually work hand to hand, shoulder to shoulder with the people I used to call poor, you realize there's nothing poor about them. To call them poor is to demean them and ourselves, because what's poor is their circumstances, not them. In fact, those circumstances provide a kind of environment that makes them strong, resilient, innovative. In fact, they exhibit more courage to live through a day than you and I are going to need in our entire lifetime. It's inappropriate to call these people poor. That's their circumstances, but not them. They're whole, complete, and actually totally awesome. I also learned a lot of lessons from people I used to call rich. And we make the same mistake when we label those people by their financial circumstances, as although they look glamorous and what everyone seems to want. The universe constantly meets you and gives you exactly what you want. Rather than living in the mindset, the crazy unconscious mindset of scarcity, chasing more all the time, if you let go of trying to get more of what you don't really need, you can use all that energy that's tied up in the chase and turn it into make a difference with what you have. When you make a difference with what you already have, when you own it, you nourish it. When you make a difference with it, you share it, it expands. This is the principle of sufficiency. So I just want you to take a few minutes. Let's take a few moments, write down a theme that might be emerging for you. Does anybody need more time? Okay. All right. Now I want you to listen again and find a line or two lines or perhaps some words that really shimmer and speak to you. I learned my lessons about money from people I used to call poor, and I actually did call them poor. Most people do when you actually work hand to hand, shoulder to shoulder with people that I used to call poor, and you realize there's nothing poor about them. To call them poor is to demean them and ourselves, because what's poor is their circumstances, not them. In fact, those circumstances provide a kind of environment that makes them strong, resilient, innovative. In fact, they exhibit more courage to live through a day than you and I are going to need in our entire lifetime. It's inappropriate to call these people poor. That's their circumstances, but not them. They're whole and complete and actually totally awesome. I also learned a lot of lessons from people I used to call rich. And we make the same mistake when we label those people by their financial circumstances, although they look glamorous and what everybody seems to want. The universe constantly meets you and gives you exactly what you want. Rather than living in the mindset, the crazy unconscious mindset of scarcity, chasing more all the time, if you let go of trying to get more of what you don't really need, you can use all that energy that's tied up in the chase and turn it into a difference. Turn to make a difference with what you have. When you make a difference with what you already have, when you own it, when you nourish it, when you make a difference with it, when you share it, It expands. This is the principle of sufficiency. Okay. Does anybody need more time? Their line? Okay. So now, just close your eyes and hear it like a prayer. I learned my lessons about money from people I used to call poor. And I actually did call them poor. Most people do. But when you actually work hand to hand, shoulder to shoulder with people that I used to call poor, you realize there's nothing poor about them. To call them poor is to demean them and ourselves, because what's poor is their circumstances, not them. In fact, those circumstances provide a kind of environment that makes them strong, resilient, innovative. In fact, they exhibit more courage to live through a day than you and I are going to need in our entire lifetime. It's inappropriate to call these people poor. That's their circumstances, but not them. They're whole and complete and actually totally awesome. I also learned a lot of lessons from people I used to call rich, and we make the same mistake when we label those people by their financial circumstances, although they look glamorous and what everybody seems to want. The universe constantly meets you and gives you exactly what you want. Rather than living in the mindset, the crazy unconscious mindset of scarcity, chasing more all the time. If you let go of trying to get more of what you don't really need, you can use all that energy that's tied up in the chase and turn to make a difference with what you have. When you make a difference with what you already have, when you own it, when you nourish it, when you make a difference with it, when you share it, it expands. This is the principle of sufficiency. So I just want you to breathe that in. Be with it. I'm going to read it one more time. This time I invite you to actually close your eyes, if you haven't before, and allow an action to come to you as I'm reading it. What is an action that you are called to take or compelled to take? I learned my lessons about money from people I used to call poor, and I actually did call them poor. Most people do when you actually work hand to hand, shoulder to shoulder with people that I used to call poor. You realize there's nothing poor about them. To call them poor is to demean them and ourselves, because what's poor is their circumstances, not them. In fact, those circumstances provide a kind of environment that makes them strong, resilient, innovative. In fact, they exhibit more courage to live through a day than you and I are going to need in our entire lifetime. It's inappropriate to call these people poor. That's their circumstances, but not them. They're whole and complete and actually totally awesome. I learned a lot of lessons from people I used to call rich, and we make the same mistake when we label those people by their financial circumstances. Although they look glamorous and what everybody seems to want. The universe constantly meets you and gives you exactly what you want. Rather than living in the mindset, the crazy unconscious mindset of scarcity. Chasing more all the time if you let go of trying to get more of what you don't really need. You can use all that energy that's tied up in the chase and turn to make a difference with what you have. When you make a difference with what you already have, when you own it, when you nourish it, when you make a difference with it, when you share it, it expands. This is the principle of sufficiency. So breathe that in, see what action comes to you. What are you called to do? What are you called to step into? When you've got it, you can also write it down. Okay. So what did you experience as the theme for you? Anybody want to call it out?
I experienced how I was raised and what I was taught to think poor is and what I was taught to think rich is. And
how interesting.
to interpret that those were the circumstances, not the people. So that's what came out of that for me with regards to a theme that emerged.
Brilliant. Thank you, Annette.
Nice.
Anyone else?
It was that generosity doesn't require any money.
Ah, very good. Okay. That's cool.
I got that what we do is more important than what we have.
Okay. Beautiful. And so what was a line or a couple of lines that shimmered, that really stood out for you?
For me, it was the universe constantly meets you and gives me exactly what I want.
Ah, Okay.
I got the same thing, Lena.
I got the same thing too. And I got also the other one was when you actually work hand to hand, shoulder to shoulder with people, you realize there's nothing poor about them.
Ah, okay.
I got to think about circumstances providing a kind of environment that makes us strong, resilient, and innovative.
Hmm. Okay, anyone else?
A general theme for me that I thought was important was how it's much more important to be rich in spirit than financially. Some of the people I look up to the most may not have a lot of money, but their character is what I respect and admire more than what they own.
Okay. Thanks, Tom.
For me, I loved that the principle of sufficiency is sharing what you already have.
Hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
we always have more than we realize.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lena, I liked the or what came out was if you share what you already have, it expands. So it takes away the needing to accumulate more.
There you go. And so, what were some of the actions that you were called to? What came through in terms of action for you?
I think. Go ahead.
To treat like people that are begging on the street with respect and kindness, as if like they're equals, not look down on them.
That's gorgeous. Thanks, Tom. And Diana, you were going to say something?
Just to share the whatever it is, like a laugh or a smile or just a positive presence rather than having to share knowledge or share your food or something like that. Like even building with something that's already, you don't have to do anything except be.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to chime in, sort of building on what Tom said. I think when you have been poor and you have had money, if you've had the opportunity to have both those things in your life, then you realize that they're not two separate things, but they're all part of sort of one, if you want to call it a linear path, or for most people it's more of a lumpy path. Then you can have respect for both sides and not fear or be angry at either side. And I know when I see somebody and they're begging, and I think about what it takes for someone to be in a place to have to do that, and how few people actually speak to them or look them in the eye or say, how are you doing today? And they just, like 90% of the time when I do that, they absolutely light up because they are just ignored as you walk down the street, like as if like they're just not wanted in society. And I think it's often a reflection of what we fear in ourselves, that we could find ourselves there. So we just don't want it to exist. We want to ignore it and want to not have it be there. So I love that this prayer, this passage is bookended with the poor and the rich, and that it's really all the same. The lessons come from both. The pain comes from both. So that I found that really stood out to me.
Cool. Thanks, Sonia.
The line comes to me that the saying, "There, but for circumstance, go I."
Pretty much. That's great. Maybe that could somehow be, a new passage in the in the scriptures somewhere, I'm sure it is in some way.
I think it's a CSL version of the 12-step program. So if we had a 12-step thingy in our center, maybe that's what we could say. Yeah.
Okay, anybody else get an action?
I got from that being called to take action on making a difference, and also sharing, and sharing makes everything expand, and trying to make that a philosophy of life, which and letting go of judgment, because that's sometimes, I get caught in that like everybody else. So that would be a practice I would like to remove. I don't know if anybody's watched the movie. We watched a movie last night called Same Kind of Different as Me. It is the most incredible true story. And this whole reading calls to that movie. So if anybody wants to watch a truly inspiring movie, that movie called Same Kind of Different as Me is an unbelievable story to watch. And
thank you.
And poor.
And that's on?
I got it Rogers on Demand, and it's with Renee, what's her name?
Zellweger?
Yeah, that it didn't even matter. It was just a story, and it was a true story based on a rich gentleman and a rich couple and a very poor gentleman. It was an unbelievable story. And as you read that first paragraph, I thought, I wonder if that comes from the movie.
No, it was a Lynn Twist TED Talk.
Yeah, well, interesting.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the movie. It was unbelievable.
Oh, thank you. I'll look for that.
Very good.
Yes.
Thank you.
And brilliant action there, Annette. Okay. Anybody else want to share before I move on?
Yeah. I got practitioner work. What I'm doing now at the center, and I believe bringing into my life too.
Okay.
And the other thing was just holding everyone in the highest regard. Everyone I meet, everyone I talk to.
Oh, yeah.
Which is kind of a theme in what we've all said.
May I add something too? I didn't necessarily agree with all those ideas. I was thinking starting off a life having to struggle with poverty can certainly build character, courage and strength and resilience and being innovative. But if you do build those habits and those qualities, you won't stay poor. You'll find a way to become prosperous by means of those attributes. People that stay in poverty, they haven't learned to grow in those ways. That's my belief, my observation.
Yeah, and I can certainly see how you can relate to that, Tom, or correlate that. The actual context that Lynn Twist was talking about were people she was working with in third world countries who didn't have the same circumstances. Yeah. But I certainly agree with you that when we can build the resiliency and become innovative and shift our consciousness, we have the power to rise above our circumstances, to transcend that and step into a much different way of being and a different level of consciousness. And it's, in some ways, when we get that consciousness, that is our responsibility to actually step into it and be it and exude it. A prosperity consciousness is not just about money. A prosperity consciousness is that I have so much to share and give, and that I see the abundance around me, and I'm so grateful for it. And so, and therefore attract more circumstances into my life that support me in my growth on all levels, because prosperity is about having an abundance of relationships and an abundance of love and peace and joy. So yeah, yeah. And that is our responsibility, to step in and become that and exude that through every pore of our being, so that we are an example of what's possible in the world, that we are not bound by our histories, and we can rise above them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, I do not know why I have red lines on my screen, but
Right.
I'm like, really, it looked like I took a crayon or a pen and was
Yeah.
drawing. I do not know. So I wanted to show you a video. It is a little longer. It's about 10 minutes, but it's such a great video of Lynn Twist. And it's going to, again, in case you haven't guessed, I'm sort of moving along a theme here where I'm going to, at the end, do a visioning with you on embodying your own prosperity consciousness and how you can serve and contribute in the world. So I'm going to show this to you. Can you bring the house lights up a little bit so I can see who I'm talking to? Can you do that? Great. Hi. I've never spoken to a Wall Street audience before, so I want to see you. As a person who's an activist, global activist, a fundraiser, a philanthropist, someone who loves to ask for money, I do it all the time. In fact, I have to restrain myself from not asking you for money right now. I've been a philanthropist and a fundraiser all my life for the things that I believe in. And I wrote a book called The Soul of Money. And I wrote that book because when you work on hunger and poverty, when you raise money, when you travel the world, when you sit at the feet of someone like Mother Teresa, you begin to understand that a lot of the problems we face are connected with a distorted, difficult, and untransformed relationship that we have with money. And the book, The Soul of Money, people ask me, does money have soul? Well, no, but we do, and we can give soul to money in the way we earn it, in the way we spend it, in the way we invest it, in the way we save it, and in the way we contribute it. And I've learned my lessons about money, not here on Wall Street. I'm not a financial banker. I didn't really even pass economics that I can remember. But I've learned my lessons about money from people I used to call poor. And when I use that label now, it rankles me because I know them. I've worked with them. I've been side by side with them in the trenches after the 1984-1985 famine in Ethiopia, with women who lost every single child to starvation. And I can't call those people poor. There's nothing poor about them. They have more strength, more resolve, more determination. They're more creative, more innovative than most of us will ever need to be. And they exhibit more courage to live through one day than you and I are going to need to exhibit in an entire lifetime. So to call them poor is to demean them and to demean those of us who would call them that. They're awesome people. And what's poor is their circumstances, not them. They're whole and complete people living in the crushing reality, the oppressive reality of resource poor circumstances, which sometimes drives people to be as great as those of us in this room would want to be throughout our life. It has them depend on their inner resources, their inner riches, and not look to outer riches. I've also learned a lot of my lessons about money from people that I used to call rich. And I don't call people rich any longer, although some of us may be that here. Certainly in this part of the world, there's a lot of people who we think of as rich. And as a fundraiser, I'm always looking for those people. You know, what's their phone number? What's their email address? But I now realize that calling people rich does the same disservice to people because they start thinking they are their circumstances.
when they too are whole and complete people, living in the ebb and flow and sometimes numbing reality of excessive resources. And Mother Teresa taught me many, many beautiful things. I could tell 1,000 stories about her. She was the real deal. But one of the things that she taught me was that the vicious cycle of wealth can be as intractable, as oppressive, have as much suffering as the vicious cycle of poverty. You can get caught in it and you don't know that you're stuck. So I've learned these lessons from Ethiopian women after the famine, people in Mozambique after the war there, people in Bangladesh after a tremendous flood where people will be so resilient they'll rebuild their homes sometimes 20, 30, 40, 50 times. And my most recent lessons have come from the people of the Amazon rainforest where I now work with indigenous people. Indigenous peoples of the Amazon who are intact in their culture, intact in their tradition, and clearly intact in their relationship with the community of life and the natural world. In that part of the world, indigenous people hold the good of the community as the highest ethic. And if you hold the good of the community as the highest ethic, then the individuals will be taken care of. That's the way they see it. So people never individuate at expense of the community. And when someone in that reality or that way of seeing things in indigenous communities takes more than they need, they send them to the shaman. They think they're mentally ill. You would never do that. And I suggest that the community of life is where we need to put our highest priority now. We are living at a time in history where for the first time ever, humanity, one species, is using more resources from the earth than she can regenerate. And we've gone into what's called ecological overshoot or ecological debt. The year that that began was 1987. Scientists can put a date on it. It was 1987 that we went over that one Earth line. We now, 25 years later, 26 years later, use 41% more resources than the Earth can regenerate. If you think about that, realize that we're living off an ecological credit card we can never pay back. And I assert to you, standing right here on Wall Street with Wall Street right there at the back and having just rung the bell downstairs with the other speakers, that the financial crisis we've just lived through is not only the result of some greed, yes, some banking practices that weren't too cool, yes, some mortgages that weren't that solid, yes, and a lot of things that it's been attributed to, lack of this regulation or that. But it's actually a reflection of the ecological crisis. That the economy is a subset of the ecology. Eco, they are related. This stage, this screen, my blouse, the microphone that's picking up my voice, all comes from the earth. Everything comes from the earth. And we are now using 41% more resources than the earth can regenerate. We are in deep ecological debt. And the economy, being a subset of the ecology, now is revealing and mirroring that back to us. I assert that borrowing more and more and more money will never get us out of this crisis, the economic crisis. It will assuage us. It will make us feel a little better. It will have things be a little softer when they land. But until we, as a human species, learn how to live within our ecological means, the economic crisis will still haunt us. I want to suggest to each person in this auditorium and anybody who's watching this, that the choices you make may influence the future of life for the next 1,000 years. You could think of that as a burden, but I think of it as something quite different than that. We're living at a time where our lives are ennobled by that responsibility. Our lives matter so deeply. The choices we make are so critical that if you think about it, that makes us living lives that could be the most meaningful lives any generation of humankind has ever lived. we have the opportunity to turn the tide from a inhospitable, unsustainable, really dangerous future, which is where we're headed, to a hospitable, nurturing, sustainable future by the choices we make. We have the opportunity to bring forth an environmentally sustainable, spiritually fulfilling, and socially just human presence on this planet. And we can do that in the way that we use money. Rather than using money as an end, use it as a means to serve the planet, serve each other, and be in communion with the community of life. So I invite you, as people here on Wall Street, everybody's looking to Wall Street all the time. Everybody wants to know what's happening on Wall Street. It's kind of where it's at. I invite you to consider the possibility that this, of all places on earth, could be the place where the tide turns. Business is the largest institution on earth. Business has a huge responsibility now, at a time when we're in a kind of crisis that we go numb to because it's so big we don't know what to do about it. But there's solutions for absolutely everything that we face. And we have the opportunity to rise to that occasion. And I invite, in fact, I challenge those of you on Wall Street to be as great as the women in Ethiopia after that 1985 famine, to be as great as the people in the rainforest who are fighting the battle for their lives, their future, their forests, and the community of life. I invite you to be as great as you've ever been as we turn the tide and create a future that will work for all of us. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to pause share for a sec. Bring this back. So, what I want to do is put you into groups, and I want you to come up with a way that you in your group will commit to being greater than you have been with money and of service in the world. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 of you. So I'm going to put you into groups of 3. And let's see what you come up with. Okay.
Could you repeat again, please,
Yep.
what we're...
Oh, for sure. Before I hit that button, you're gone. A way that you can be greater than you already are. Like a way you're going to step yourself up, and a way that you can be of contribution. And what might be kind of neat is in your groups, if you can collaborate on a way that you, even though like you live in different places, that you are, that you're still contributing within your community, or, you know, there's some way that you commit and you can hold each other accountable to that. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yeah.
All right. There you go. Diana, you have to hit join breakout room.
in the community.
Oh,
Hi, Helen.
You gave us a big one, Helen.
Yeah. How can you be greater? What can you step into and embody? What quality?
I feel like for me, one of the things I want to keep growing on is this not going grocery shopping and buying things just for the security of having them in my cupboards or in my fridge. Like, I'll grocery shop like 5 times a week because I love food and I love being around it, but not needing to accumulate. So I always have a backup to a backup to a backup to a backup, because then it goes wasteful and it's unnecessary. And it's, so that's a personal one for me. But I also think, like, on a bigger perspective, at the end when we were doing what you had us doing, and it was like, if you, when you share what you have, it grows. I just think of that for work with me, when it's sharing my knowledge that I have to allow it to expand for other people in that way without harboring it. Because sometimes people ask questions, it's just like, I don't want to engage right now, so I'm just going to keep this to myself or not share anything, but letting that be liberated a little bit more.
That's brilliant. There you go. How does that feel?
Cautiously optimistic.
Okay.
It seems too simple, Helen.
Oh, but that's it. It can be very simple.
we like to complicate things as humans, so.
Yeah. So what are you guys going to do?
I think for me, the being mindful of being more mindful in a lot of the aspects of my life. I was, like I said, when I started, about going grocery shopping and being mindful, or even just walking through the mall and, walking into a store. Do I need this? And so, because I looked at how much money I had been spending, and it was rather blind. And so for me, it's the mindfulness aspect. That's important for me, being mindful in all aspects of my life. And that includes things like, am I using the food that's in my refrigerator, or is it going to waste?
That's been a theme tonight about food.
I think it is a theme tonight of food. Yeah.
I think for me, it's like you have to realize it, and if you kind of listen, it's about consumption. And, if we're consuming, we're not really, reusing, I guess. And that's something, it's just instead of like less consumption, more giving type of thing. Like you said, put more in circulation. Consumption doesn't really, it does, to me, consumption is a little more, it's put in circulation but limited. Whereas if you put it out to the world, then anybody else can have it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, less consumption.
Yeah. Less consumption, and also less consumption. But also, what about the enjoyment of what you do consume? Because it's like, it's not a bad thing. We all consume. And, it doesn't matter what culture you're in. Everybody is consuming. But it's the consciousness in which you do.
Yeah, it's like, if it's something dear to your heart, like if you want to do something or buy something to do something that you want to do or participate in something, yes, that makes sense. I think it's what comes down. I think it comes down to like what people seem to be saying is, do I need it? Do I want it? Desire? Do I desire it, or do I need it? So now you're just balancing that, for the sake of having it, or it's something that's close to your heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So because I feel like there's such a fine line. When she was talking, I've got my gas fireplace going because I'm cold. And as she was talking, I was like, oh, I should turn off my fireplace and just wrap myself in a blanket. Like, really, do I need to be using this gas because it's burning out the resource? But it's also brings me a lot of pleasure to be able to turn on this fireplace that I just had installed and get to enjoy it. So like where's that? Is it just about really enjoying then when you're consuming? Like,
well, and doing it consciously. So, it's not, you're not going to waste gas by leaving it on all day when you don't need to.
Right.
So I think I think she refers to this and means this a lot. It's about really being mindful and aware of what you are consuming and when, versus the amount of people that just mindlessly consume and are doing it from a place of greed and a place of lack or deficiency.
Which we're seeing a lot in this world because it's so ever present in our faces in social media, and that is that place of,
yeah. So it's rising above that consciousness to say, I'm going to go for quality, not quantity. Yeah. What about for you, Tyson?
Actually, I don't really think about food or purchases when we talked about this. One of the things that kind of came to mind instantly when we talked about being greater than we have been before was the example at our last class, Helen, about your friend who kind of cleaned the bathroom after she left it. And that really resonated with me because that doesn't take away from maybe a resource or something. Like, that's something so simple. And when we talk about being greater than we were before, contributing, I'm now actively looking for ways that I can leave places better than they were before.
Oh,
yeah, so like,
cool.
and it's been really cool because I've been trying to be conscious of it the last 2 weeks, and it's little stuff like wiping up things or taking 2 carts back to the thing where the grocery store is, right? Rather than just taking, stuff like that. So when we talk about being greater than we were before, I wasn't conscious to that. I was just so siloed in what I was doing. So now I'm kind of looking for ways that I can help somebody.
Tyson, that's awesome.
Yeah,
thank you for sharing that. I'm writing that down.
Hey, Helen shared it. It resonated. So
yes.
But I would say I don't remember hearing that.
Me neither.
That was in my last talk. That was in last week's talk.
Oh,
Sunday talk.
Okay.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm inspired by that as well. Finding ways to leave something better than when you walked in the space. I like that. That's amazing.
Yeah. Picking up a piece of litter on the street,
Well, it's so funny for me personally because I work, like, when I'm in my hotels for work, like, I'm so conscious of that because it's a guest experience. So, like, if I find something on the floor or I notice something, it's just like, so I don't even think about it because I'm trying to create this experience. So why can't I do that everywhere? Because it takes nothing.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. All right, you guys. I think I'm we're having a good conversation here, but I think I better bring everybody back. So I'm going to close this all out here.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Everyone's saying right now, there's only 40 seconds.
Where are you, Tyson? Are you at work right now?
Yeah, I'm at my office.
Your background's different.
Yeah, I'm at the office. Kind of fancy brick. It's cool back here.
It looks neat.
Okay, where's everybody else?
Having a great conversation. Yeah.
Well, you lost control.
I did.
Well, you gave them an entire minute to leave the breakout room, and they're going to push it till the last second.
I know, but it's kind of weird that nobody else has come on but us. I'm like,
There
Oh,
we
there
go.
they are. There they are. Okay. Oh, there's everybody. Okay. So, how are you going to be greater than you were? How are you going to do that? What are you going to do?
I'll just speak a little bit about some of the things that we talked about, like just being very conscious of our investments and, where we start, what kind of companies that we invest in, stocks, mutual funds, whatever, like very obvious, but it's really important to dig in and ask those questions. It's going to mean something to us, right?
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I love it.
And then also we just talked about sort of the multiplier effect. If we sort of demonstrate, through our actions, like our respect for the environment and people and so on, I think there's a huge multiplier effect and how that affects our friends and our family and our children and our nephews and nieces and whoever is around you. They'll start to see the world in a different way simply by how you live, breathe, talk, everything, all your purchases and all that. I think there's a really positive multiplier effect that could come out of that.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, what about the other group?
Well, Helen, I don't know how much more I can be of service. My whole life's of service. And as I said, after I listened to the group, for me, right now, right here, right now, in my days and in my life, as I'm of service to my communities, to mankind, I don't see any more ways in which I can be of service right now. And I'm open to it, but it feels heavy. I can't think of more right now. That's me.
Can I ask something?
Yeah.
Is there maybe a way, Linda, you could be more in service to yourself, and then you can...
Tyson, that's exactly what I said to the group.
Yeah.
If there's anything I could be more, thank you. That's what I said to my group. What comes up for me is just more self-care for me.
Well, there you go.
Thank you. You're brilliant. That's what came up for me. Was it felt heavy to say more. It felt better to just breathe and say, reflect and just take more time for me and care for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and can I also add something to that? That if anybody at any time feels like there's nothing more to give, like I'm giving and I'm giving and I'm giving, I think it's also a really good opportunity to reflect and go, wait a minute, am I getting compassion fatigue? Because we can go into compassion fatigue because we're putting out so much that there isn't time and space left for us. So that's also something just, to keep in mind. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. And someone else?
Linda, along the lines of what you said, I think we agreed that just doing what we've always done and recommitting to it once in a while is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Nick.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. And from the group that I popped in on, anything there you want to share?
Tyson had the best statement, so he should repeat that.
I can, but that was from Helen. So I was just saying, last call I was really inspired by the story that Helen shared about her friend and when she's in the bathroom and she started cleaning up in this airport bathroom, all the water or whatever. And Helen asked, why are you doing that? And it's because she wanted to leave the space better than how she found it. So for me, when I heard being greater than you were before and coming from a level of contribution, that really resonated with me. So I've now been looking for different ways that I can do that. And it's been actually really simple to find different ways, like taking an extra cart back to the little shack at the grocery store, or wiping things up as I go, or even like in my condo building, I was picking up garbage out of the elevator the other day. And it's just funny because it's like, it's not really I don't live in the elevator, but it felt good because it was like for my home, but I knew it was contributing to others. So when I heard that, I was actually really inspired to start to look for ways that I can leave spaces better. Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. So what I would like to do is actually take you through a visioning for yourself, just on, again, taking a look at what you might need to release. So I'm trying to get my thing here. One of the things, and we're not going to have time to really cover this tonight, but it's a good thing to take a look at is, what are your ethics with money? And this is a really good thing to reflect back to yourself of, like, do I feel ethical? Do I feel in alignment with my divine self, my higher self, with the laws of the universe? And do I feel like I'm being clean and clear with money? So I'm going to leave that to do on your own. And then I'm going to take you through a visioning, and the questions I'm going to be asking you is, what are the qualities I'm being called? Am I being called to embody? What limiting beliefs about myself and others must I release? How may I serve humanity in a greater capacity? What action am I called to take? And then what action steps can I take this week? So you can reflect on this as I take you through it, or you can, I'm telling them to be quiet as I go into visioning. You can take notes on this. I'm going to play some music while I do it, so you can close your eyes and just really allow yourself to drop in to the space that you're in. And, it's not about getting answers. You might get images, you might get a word and go, what the heck does that word mean? And you might want to sit with it. You might have something come up that you weren't aware of. Just be open. See what shows up for you, okay? So I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. And just take a breath in. And one of the things I am going to have us do is, all together, let's start with one deep, long Om. So we breathe in and allow the breath out with an O. And allowing yourself to be present here, recognizing that there is a source of love, of power, prosperity, peace, grace, infinite wisdom that is everywhere present. That this energy is spirit and law in action at all times. And that this is who and what you are, a divine being coming from a divine source that is the source of all life. And so breathe in and feel your heart space expand. Feel your mind open at the top, allowing the divine to pour into your being. Allowing this infinite resource to move through you as you. It moves through every cell, every fiber of your being. And ask this infinite resource of wisdom, of light, of power, of peace, grace, love, joy and prosperity, abundance. This divine source that is who and what you are. What qualities of spirit am I being called to embody? Just allow this information to move through you. Allow it to settle into your being. Trusting what comes to you, whether it comes to you in an image, a word, a sentence, a color. Doesn't have to make intellectual sense, just allow it to be there. Allow those qualities to come forth that have been laying dormant or hidden within you. And yet now your spirit is saying, yes, you're ready to embody this aspect of your divine self. Now ask yourself, what limiting beliefs about myself and or others or the world must I release in order to grow, in order to step into the next evolution of my divinity? And now, with the understanding that the universe, this benevolent source of creation that always holds us able, is calling you. And you ask the question, how may I serve humanity in a greater capacity? And again, this may be a color, an image, a word. You don't have to make sense of this in this moment. You don't have to know the how. Allow the message to come through you. Trust the wisdom of the universe. Knowing that as we open our minds to a greater purpose, and we allow that to move through us and as us, there is something that is so unique and individual in an action that you are called to take. So what action are you called to take? What is yours to do? And then ask yourself, what action step or steps can I take this coming week? What is the one thing that you can do that will support you in leading to the next thing and the thing after that? Always knowing that an action is never judged by how big or small it is. It's always with the energy, the intention behind it. And knowing that each one of us, as a unique, individualized expression of the divine, we all have our own qualities to embody, our own limiting beliefs to release, our own beautiful, unique way to serve humanity, and our own beautiful, unique way of taking action. And whatever it is for you is divinely perfect, because you are divinely perfect. And so, in recognizing the beauty, the individuality, the grace within each of us as an expression of this one perfect, divine, creative, intelligent energy that is the source of all life. I know that all is in divine order, all is well. And that what came through each and every one of us is ours to know and to be taken upon in action. We don't have to tell anybody else what it is. We hold that fire in our belly. We stoke that fire and we say yes to it. And so I invite you to take another breath in. Allow your eyes to open. And if you want to, just take a couple moments to write anything down. You may have been writing while you were visioning. If not, just take a moment or two. Just curious, anybody surprised at what came through at all?
No.
Okay. So one of the things that I think would be really cool to do is, did everybody get an action step? One action step? Because what I'd like to do is just quickly is put you into groups of 2. And just so you know, that will be your accountability partner. And, just check in, decide when you're going to check in with each other, that you've actually taken that step. Okay, so I'm just going to pause stop the sharing for a second, and I will. Okay. Recreate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, that didn't work for some reason. Sorry. Just let me recreate this. Okay, and some of you might end up with 3 here. I think you're actually pretty good. Okay, so just decide when you're going to be accountable to one another, and so Tyson and Linda, you're in the same one with Lori and Brian. So there's 4 of you. So you can, Lori and Brian, you can either split up or it'll be Tyson and Linda. Okay, so here you go. You got about 1 minute once you get into your rooms. It's going to be short and sweet for your accountability partner there. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Ellen.
Y'all got it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Cool. All right. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ellen.
What I am going to do is send out a just a short questionnaire for feedback. So I'd appreciate it if you take the time to do that. And thank you. Thank you for an amazing class. And thank you for your participation and your openness and creativity and bringing yourself and your pets and all your pets to class. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ellen, for hosting and sending this out and making this happen for all of us.
Oh,
Yes.
you're so
Yes.
welcome.
Thanks,
So
Helen.
welcome. All right. Have
everyone.
a great night, everybody. Love
Okay, good night, friends.
to you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.